Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to you for the next hour or so about happiness. We're going to just have a good time. There's a little bit of opportunity for some participation, and certainly at the end of the presentation, we'll have some time for questions as well. I think we're going to be focusing primarily on utilizing the chat function of this webinar for communication, so Sharon will be monitoring that. All right, so if everybody's ready, we will jump into some tips and tricks for happiness. I do want to get started first by discussing a little bit of positive psychology and provide you with a brief history of positive psychology. This part or branch of psychology has been around for about the last 20-ish years or so. Martin Seligman, Dr. Martin Seligman from the University of Pennsylvania is the father of positive psychology. His name may sound a little bit familiar if you ever took an intro to psych class, as this was the guy who shocked dogs in cages and watched as the dogs jumped to other parts of the cage and until they stopped jumping to another part of the cage. And then he created this thought about learned helplessness, which is not very fun and not very resilient, and back in the days where there was not a lot of ethics around research in psychology. So throughout Dr. Seligman's career, he started to think more about resiliency and positivity and how that can help people grow versus thinking about what's wrong with individuals and how they may become helpless. So fascinating shift for him, and he's still very active in his career in the positive psychology school at the University of Pennsylvania. So thinking of positive psychology, this is the scientific study of strengths and virtues that enable individuals and communities to thrive. It really holds the belief that people want meaningful and fulfilling lives. We want to have purpose as individuals. It also holds the belief that people want to cultivate what's best or what's good about themselves, and that people really want to have positive and enhanced experiences of love, work, and play. That sounds great, hopefully for everybody, and if whatever we can do to really enhance those experiences in our lives is what positive psychology strives to do. So part of this is really about learning how to be happy and learning to build up our resiliency. So let's really think a little bit first about what is happiness. Have a couple quotes up here, some may be familiar. So great Greek philosopher Aristotle said, happiness is an expression of the soul in considered actions. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Freud, the grandfather of psychology, says happiness is a matter of love and work. All right, that could be fair too. And Charles Schulz, the writer of the comic strip Peanuts, said happiness is a warm puppy. So maybe one of those definitions of happiness may resonate with you. Or maybe those definitions do not resonate with you. And really part of this is thinking about what is it that makes you happy, and how can you think about happiness for yourselves in whatever it is that you're doing. Okay. All right. This graph and this slide may be the most important part of this presentation today. So this is really about how we can grow our happiness and what happiness can really mean for the human experience. So if we think about that 50% of our happiness is built in our genes. You know, everybody's born with a certain set point of happiness. Some of us may have more happiness than others. Others may have a little less happiness. However, everyone has a set point where their happiness level is just part of our genes, part of our DNA. The next part about this graph is also important. Our life experience only accounts for about 10% of our happiness. So whether that's you win the lottery, or you have an amazing opportunity to travel, or whether you are growing up in a war-torn country, only 10% of that happiness within yourself, only 10% of your happiness is due to what's going on with you. Now, this is the important part. 40%, so almost half of everybody's individual level of happiness comes from what it is that they are doing, that intentional activity. What are you doing to work on your level of happiness? Or what are you're not doing to try and increase your level of happiness? So almost half of your happiness is based on what it is you are doing or not doing. That's pretty amazing. And it also really suggests the fact that you have a ton of control over your happiness. Now, I do want to point out the fact that focusing on happiness and being in control of your happiness is not about never experiencing negative emotions. We all feel sad and angry, frustrated, all of those emotions that we may qualify as negative emotions. Those are all okay to experience and walk through and handle and cope with and deal with. That is also all part of the human experience. However, when you are not dealing with those times that may be traumatic or those really difficult times, there are things that you can do to build on your happiness level. All right, so number one, and I do believe that we have some of the group's gratitude section of your organization on the call today. First off is express gratitude. This can be done in a variety of different ways. The research on gratitude shows that the more gratitude you express, the healthier you feel, the better your work performance or your educational performance may be, the more satisfied you may feel within your lives in whatever it is that you're doing. So thinking about how can you express gratitude or express more gratitude than what you're doing. A couple quick examples of how to express gratitude. One may be to start a gratitude journal. Writing down 1 or 2 things every day that you may be grateful for is a wonderful way to really start some gratitude practice. In your organization or within your family, think about having a gratitude wall where others can express gratitude for things that other people have done for them. Really great way to think about expressing gratitude within larger groups of people. I will share also, if you are in the mood, check out the YouTube video, Soul Pancakes Gratitude Experiment. This talks about the importance and the power that writing a gratitude letter and reading that letter to the person you're expressing gratitude towards can have on the person hearing the information and also the person who's expressing that gratitude. So think about, is there someone in your life who you really want to express gratitude towards? Write it down, and if you're able, share it with them. Another way to express gratitude is during a team meeting. This is something that I do with my team every week. We share one gratitude during the meeting. We have a group of about 14 people. It takes us 5 minutes to get through, so it's not a huge amount of time and sets the tone for a really positive meeting where we're focusing on just one thing that's we can really feel thankful for in the moment. Okay. Oops, next. All right. So after you've grown your gratitude, think about cultivating optimism. And of course, this is if you're a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of person. So to try and get to be more glass half full kind of person, ask yourself, WWWT, what went well today? There may be some things and some days where, you know, things are just not going great and it's been a tough day and things are really, really hard and difficult. Ask yourself for one thing that went well today. If you need to, write it down or start a list of those things. That will at least help you focus on something that can be associated with a positive aspect of the day. It may be that the sky is blue or that the snow is falling, depending on your preference. And just really think about what went well today. Another aspect of how you can cultivate optimism is ask yourself this question, or actually fill in the blanks of this question. The most important door that closed on me was, and the one that opened was. Okay, this next one can be really tough for some folks. How and what can you do to try to avoid overthinking and social comparison? Social comparison has happened a lot and oftentimes in a negative way over the last several years as we have become much more prolific with the use of social media. And you may be looking at other people's social media thinking, oh, my life is not like that. And oh, that person, their page and story is all just perfect things. And how come that doesn't happen to me, all this perfect stuff that's going on? If you're able to, stop doing that. You don't need to do that. So consider an electronic diet or an e-diet. Take a break from social media for a few hours or a few days. It's really okay. People just showcase oftentimes the things that are really going well in order to present such a positive aspect to the world. And I'm not saying that social media is all bad. It's a great way to connect with individuals as long as it's done in a healthy way. So consider an e-diet or consider a different way of utilizing social media in a healthier way. And then another way to stop some of this negativity around overthinking is to have a but-free day. Substitute the word and instead of but. It really changes the context of what it is that you're saying. If you say something positive like, oh, I really like your paper, but you have all of these mistakes in it, that negates the positive that was happening in that first part of the sentence. If you change that statement to, I really like your paper, and could I help you with some of the typos, changes that so that the positive piece is still something that the listener can hear. So think about having a but-free day, and then consider having a but-free week and a but-free month. Okay. All right. Next, I want to talk about kindness. Practicing small acts of kindness is a really great way to build up your own level of happiness. You may also spark happiness in other people and inspire other people to do kind things for others around them as well. Kindness does not have to be expensive or complicated. You can keep it simple and you can keep it free. Smiling to somebody is a really great way to just show kindness to another person. You may lift the spirits of that person because you're not sure, and you may not know what it is that has been going on for that individual during the day. Holding the door for somebody, especially if they're carrying something. Another very simple way to promote kindness within others. Leave somebody a positive note. That is incredibly kind. And then if you want to up your kindness game a little bit, try some secret acts of kindness. Are there things that you can do to those around you or do for those around you that may be done in secret? And then check out your own happiness level on the back end of that. You will certainly feel an upswing or a surge of happiness after you've done something kind for somebody else. All right, this one is so important and can be complicated at times too. So thinking about what can you do to nurture the relationships that may be healthy for you to have. We all are involved with tons of different relationships with our family, with our friends, in our work lives, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We are always interacting with people, or certainly have tons of opportunities to interact with people. And think about the things that you can do to really nurture those relationships, honor those relationships, cultivate them. You may be able to do that by contacting someone with whom you've been out of contact. Can you give them a call, meet for coffee? Think about your friendships that maybe you haven't spent time with in recent months, weeks, years, whatever that is. How can you connect with that individual? And then to take it to the next level, maybe think about which relationships are healthy for you and which relationships may not be healthy for you. Now, we may still have to be having some type of relationship with individuals who are not the healthiest for us. However, are you able to set some strong boundaries, or are you able to distance yourself a little bit in order to keep yourself in a healthy way? When you're able to do that, your feeling of happiness will be increased. Forgiveness. This one can be very difficult. Lots of things have been written about forgiveness, and it it certainly can be hard to forgive people who have wronged you. Sometimes forgiveness can be easier. We certainly like to teach kids to forgive other people who have wronged them. And what we know is that when we don't forgive individuals, that sense and negative feelings start to create much more negativity within us. So if you are able to find yourself in a position where you can forgive someone, I encourage you to try and do it. I want to really drive home the thought that forgiveness does not condone the action. Just because you are forgiving somebody for what happened to you, it does not mean that you agree with or condone or like the action that has happened to you. Forgiveness is about the forgiver. By letting go of the situation, by forgiving the wrongdoer, you will be able to start healing yourself in a different way. Sometimes we don't have the opportunity to verbally forgive an individual. That's absolutely okay. By writing it down, by journaling it a little bit, and noting what happened to you, as well as stating that you forgive that individual, can really provide a sense of relief and a bit more positivity for that person who is thinking about forgiving. So if you're able to forgive, I encourage you to try and forgive someone and see and check in with yourself if you are starting to feel better. All right, this next one is kind of a big topic, and we could probably do 20 hours of webinar series on developing coping strategies. And really, I should probably have written developing positive coping strategies. There's oftentimes things that we do in order to cope with a situation that may not be as healthy or positive for us. And that occurs when we get into a bad case of the overs, right? We're overthinking, we're overspending, we're overeating, overdrinking. All of those things are pretty negative coping strategies. So think about what could turn into positive coping strategies for you. Sometimes this may be an experiment, really finding out what works for you. For some people, it may be getting a massage. For other people, massage is no way, that can never be good coping for me, but maybe going for a walk in nature is good coping. Maybe it's being outside and getting fresh air. Maybe it's staying inside and reading a book by a fire and being cozy. So really experiment, find out what works for you in order to take some time for self-care or some really good coping. It's okay to take time for yourself. You need to make sure that your own mask is secured before you're able to help the people around you. We hear that from airline stewards who are providing us with safety information when we get on an airplane, and we need to do that when we're not on an airplane as well. Secure your own mask first, then you'll be able to help others. When you're looking at different coping strategies, really consider your senses. Maybe having something that's good smelling in your house, like candles or things like that. Maybe it's paying attention to the foods that you're eating and having something very savory that you really like. It could be finding things that are beautiful to look at, whether inside your home or outside. It could be having a nice cozy blanket so that your tactile sense is being taken care of. Figure out what works well for you and your senses. And in the moment, the best coping strategy is always to breathe. Take a really good, strong, deep breath in and let it out slowly. And practice that as often as you can in order to help find your center or to help calm yourself if you need to do so. All right, one of my favorite things here, engage in activities that are heartfelt. What are those things that you can do, or who do you love in your life that you really need to spend time doing or spend time with? You know, the first one that I just written down was who do you love? So those people in your life who are meaningful for you, who you care about deeply, who care about you, do whatever it is that you can to spend time with them. that will help boost that resiliency and boost your happiness level. If there are things that you love to do more of it if you're able to, or put some effort towards getting back into doing those things that you really love to do. Make that a priority in your life. If it's something that's difficult for you to do now, are there ways that you can modify that activity so that you're able to feel some of that positivity and some of that absolute happiness or joy when you are doing that activity? Savoring. This is a great way to experience some happiness. Once again, this is another tip or trick that that doesn't cost anything. It's all about your brain. First off, what we need to do is figure out a positive memory that you have and relive that memory and all of the good feelings that you had associated with that memory. Maybe it's a specific time that you had with somebody, maybe it's a specific place that you have been at, but whatever it is about that memory and that positive memory and the feelings that you had, relive that, feel those feelings, and really just savor that aspect of your life or that time in your life or those people in your lives. Sometimes this can be really hard to do, especially if you're feeling upset or in a negative space. So the easiest way to do this when it's hard to conjure up a positive memory, use your cell phone and find a positive picture. A lot of people are walking around with cell phones with a gazillion snapshots on those phones. So those pictures can help you remember some good times or some good places or some happy experiences you had with others. So use that to launch yourself into some positive feelings. If you want to take your savoring to the next level, I encourage you to share those cell phone pictures or share those excellent memories with other individuals. The task of sharing things that are so important and positive and associated with great happiness feelings or joyful feelings really boosts our own level of happiness in the moment. And then my guess is that other people will be able to respond in a way that, hey, they might have something to share or savor with you about their life as well. That just builds relationships too, and gets back to nurturing relationships, which of course is one of our tips and tricks on one of the earlier slides. Okay. Next one is committing to your goals. Think about what it is that you want to do, and then divide that into the steps that you need to accomplish those goals. When people are committed to their goals, it's really helpful to break it down into baby steps. I might be quoting Bill Murray from one of his movies. Can't think of the movie, but baby steps. What do you need to do to break down those big goals into small things that you may be able to accomplish? You know, it gets back to the old adage, don't bite off more than you can chew. It's really hard to wake up one morning and decide that you're going to run a marathon and do it. You know, you need to really break that down into walking around the block first and making sure you got a good pair of sneakers. So think about how you can break down your goals into steps. When you're doing that, who in your life are you able to cultivate to be a good social support for you during the way? When we have people that are in our corner or acting as cheerleaders for us, the opportunity to be a bit more positive is there. And once you commit your goal to somebody else and they know about it, the chances of you doing your goal or working toward your goal may increase a bit more as you know somebody else knows what it is that you're doing. Ask them to ask you about how it is you're doing with your goals, to have them check in with you, have them cheerlead with you, and see how far you are to be able to get closer and closer to your goalpost, to your final end of your marathon. Practicing spirituality is the next aspect of a way that you can cultivate happiness within yourself. I do want to say that spirituality is very self-defined. It may include organized religions or organized services, or it may not. Spirituality can be defined by the individual as as needed for that person. Meditation, yoga, time in nature, all of those things could have a spiritual aspect to them for specific individuals. All of that is okay. All I can say is that people who research happiness say that spirituality is one of the things that they've noticed in folks who are able to demonstrate higher levels of happiness. So think about what spirituality means for you, and are there things that you can do to really cultivate that however you define that for yourself. All right, take care of your body. We know the whole gamut of things that we need to do to take care of ourselves in order to be healthy. The experts will tell us that it's about food and what we're eating, that it's about exercising and how much of that we're doing, that it's about moderation of all those things that seem really good in the moment, and good hygiene and all of that stuff. Do all of those things that you can, that the experts know to be healthy, and do it in a way that makes sense for you. And make sure that you're always checking in with your medical professionals to discuss what is important for you to be doing or not doing on your journey. Take care of your body in the way that makes sense for you, and that's going to be safe for you as well. One way that you can really build your level of happiness is looking in the mirror at yourself and telling yourself all of the good things, or maybe at least one good thing about yourself. It may be a positive thing that you do or a positive attribute that you have. Tell yourself some of these positive things. You will start believing in this as you go through life if you commit to doing some affirmations. I know it sounds a little bit Saturday Night Live-ish if you're familiar with the character Stuart Smalley. I totally get that. And the research on this is very strong. Telling yourself affirmations, looking at yourself in the mirror, and really committing to these things that you're saying out loud to yourself can boost your happiness level by lots and lots of percentage points. I will, and I have the permission to share this story. One of my staff who I supervise, he sat through one of my resiliency presentations at work and kind of thought it was a little hokey that I said do some affirmations in the mirror. However, to his credit, he said, well, I'm just going to try it and do it. You know, that Amy, who knows what she's talking about. So just happenstance, a few weeks later, my boss had run into the supervisee of mine and said, oh, hey, you know, so-and-so, how are things going? And my supervisor said, you know, things are going really great. I can't believe how great things are going. And it's so funny. I've just started doing these affirmations. Amy said they might be good for us to do, and it might actually be working. So I give that to you as a fun little anecdote to think about sharing with others around you, and certainly to try and practicing yourself. Tell yourself those wonderful things about you, and you will start incorporating that and believing that in your day. All right, well, that kind of brings us towards the end of the presentation.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you again so much for everything, and I'll be in touch.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.